Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming today. Welcome to our community members and our friends. Welcome to a number of guests that we have here today. First, I will acknowledge that we're on the traditional territory of the Syilx people, and we're appreciative of that opportunity to be here. After the 2018 flood here in the Boundary, local government identified 7 strategic objectives to build our community back better, focused on themes such as public safety, resilience, and permanent solutions. The flood recovery team has been working tirelessly with our federal and provincial partners to deliver on those objectives. As you know, the Boundary Flood Recovery Team has supported the City of Grand Forks in a large proposal that includes a suite of tactics to help us move towards a more resilient community, which is why we're gathered here today. There has been an enormous amount of energy dedicated to this proposal from our local team, but our provincial partners really need to be recognized for their openness and dedication to navigating this new territory of community-based recovery. Today's announcement is one more piece in that puzzle. It's my genuine pleasure to introduce Parliamentary Secretary for Emergency Preparedness Jennifer Rice, someone who has served our communities as an advocate in Victoria for creative solutions and is genuinely a real champion for the Boundary. Welcome.
Thank you, Rolly, for the kind introduction, and thank you all for joining in today as we gather on the traditional territory of the interior Salish peoples. I'm happy to be accompanied by Grand Forks Mayor Brian Taylor and the Chair of the Kootenay Boundary Regional District, Rolly Russell. It's been over a year since Grand Forks and the surrounding areas have faced one of the most urgent challenges this region and this province has ever known. Since then, I have been so impressed time and time again by the spirit and strength of this community. I heard the exciting sounds from the stadium last night, and I'm happy to see that the international baseball tournament is back on after being canceled due to flooding last year. This is another example of this community's resilience. I know how much hard work has gone into getting us to where we are today. And as a government, we have worked hard to support your efforts. To date, the province has spent more than $19 million to help Grand Forks and the surrounding region on the road to recovery. Yay. We've worked with the Boundary Flood Recovery Team on important projects to help get this community back on track. That includes housing, disaster financial assistance, economic recovery, health, and environmental supports. There's a long list of things that have been done, and you can see evidence of some of that work here today. This is a good example of something visual we can point to, the rocks that we're standing on today.
Yes.
Especially when seeing the damage to the riverbank after the flood, if you noticed in the poster over here. We've repaired damaged dikes and improved other infrastructure, such as pumps, to better protect the city from future flooding. But what you can't see is the close to 200 small businesses the province has helped or is helping to get back on their feet through a program that provides up to $20,000 for eligible owners, or the help provided through the province's Household Emergency Assistance Program, a first of its kind initiative that kicked in after emergency support services ended and has provided approximately $2 million to help cover the basic needs of flood victims. And it's important to point to the lessons we've learned, all levels of government, to make sure that we do better next time, because we're always working to do better. It's exciting to see the incredible work the Regional District has done in creating an emergency alerting system. I understand just last week there was a test of the new system, which will communicate information about floods, wildfires, and other emergencies. Projects like this really move the needle on public safety, and I want to encourage all area residents to sign up. While it's important to reflect on the amount of work that's been done in this area so far, this is only the beginning. Today is the first day of a new chapter for this recovery, and that brings me to why we're here today. I'm pleased to announce another major investment for Grand Forks and the surrounding region, a total of $53 million in support from the federal, provincial, and local governments. And I can tell you how that's broken down. First, $49.8 million is being provided to the community through the Disaster Mitigation and Adaptation Fund for structural and natural flood mitigation works. Of that funding, the federal government is providing $19.9 million. The province is providing $28.9 million of support, and the City of Grand Forks is providing $1 million. Additionally, $3.1 million is going to the Grand Forks Business Protection Works project in the downtown core. Of that project funding, the province is providing $2.6 million, and thanks to the City of Grand Forks, they're providing $500,000. This funding will allow the city and regional district to reinforce riverbanks, reestablish a natural floodplain, build or reinforce dikes in strategic areas, and better protect the downtown core. Now, I'm going to be reading a statement here on behalf of the Honorable François-Philippe Champagne, who's the Federal Minister of Infrastructure and Communities. He says, "This flood mitigation announcement is indeed a special occasion, and I'm sorry I could not be there with you. Climate change is having a dramatic impact on our communities. Floods, wildfires, and winter storms are getting worse and more frequent. I know you are, sadly, no stranger to this in Grand Forks. The effects of last year's flooding were devastating, and we are committed to helping ensure your community, along with many others across the country, can avoid these losses in the future. I am therefore very pleased to announce that we are contributing over $19.9 million to better protect Grand Forks from the disastrous impacts of flooding during increasingly extreme spring thaws and weather. This project to reinforce flood mitigation infrastructure along the riverbank, downtown, and build retention ponds in South Ruckle will help protect families and their properties while also creating jobs and laying the groundwork for a strong, sustainable economy and future for the community. The Government of Canada recognizes how important investing in infrastructure is to protecting public health and promoting a strong economy and nation. We are investing more than $180 billion in infrastructure projects over 12 years through our Investing in Canada plan. Our goal is to bring you the modern, solid infrastructure you need to prosper now and well into the future. Infrastructure that strengthens the economy and global competitiveness, creates greener, more sustainable communities, and fosters an inclusive society where everyone has opportunities to succeed. Thanks to these initiatives and projects like the one you're announcing today, we will continue to support 21st century infrastructure that yields tangible results for generations to come. And that was from the Honorable François-Philippe Champagne, the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities for the federal government. Now, I know how important these projects are to the community, and I hope this support will help make sure the people of this area, who are the heart of Grand Forks, stay safe and strong. No one can promise that we won't face another emergency. I really wish I could do just that, especially for this community which has gone through so much. But what I can promise you is these investments will go a long way toward mitigating the impact of a potential emergency, both here and elsewhere in BC. The flooding in Grand Forks and the recovery efforts which followed have taught us so much. These events highlight the importance of recovery in the overall emergency management process. And what we've learned about recovery is now driving the modernization of the Emergency Program Act. It's giving us the opportunity to look at new ways of approaching emergency management province-wide. And moving forward, I can assure you that we will continue to be here to help the community. It's been an honor to work with you, and I look forward to continuing that work into the future. Thank you. And I'll hand it back over to Rolly Russell.
Thank you, Jen. As I mentioned before, I think Jennifer has been a real champion for our community, so it is sincerely appreciated what you've done for us, and thank you very much. Next up, I will welcome Mayor Taylor. So over the last few months, I've had the honor and the privilege to come back working with Brian, and we've had some ups and downs in the intermediate before the last council, and so I really appreciate it. It's been a treat to be working with the new council, and you particularly, Brian. So welcome.
Thank you, Rolly. It's amazing. I mean, I'm still in a bit of shock finding that we are getting those kind of resources. So a big thank you to the provincial government, to the federal government, recognizing the kind of attention that we've got from Premier Horgan. He stood there on the steps of the fire hall and said, I'm gonna be here for you. So Premier Horgan's giving politicians a good name. He's here for us, and these kinds of changes are going to make a big difference to Grand Forks. I'd like to recognize Federal Representative Mr. Canning. Welcome, Mr. Canning. And the federal contribution is, you know, part of it, maybe a little less than the provincial contribution, but they're still there for us as well, and we have a long road ahead. Thank you to the regional district, to the staff, and to the board for all of the support that we've had through Rowley. It was Graham and Rowley who took a newly elected mayor and brought him up to steam on what was happening, and they were quite gentle about it, but we did have a lot to talk about, and I'm glad to have their mentorship in moving into the role of mayor in this town. We do have a long, hard road ahead of us. We're hoping that we can retain the kind of relationship with the Premier's office through Jennifer that we've had. It's been tremendous to have that personal attention in Grand Forks. I'm impressed at the patience of the community waiting a whole year for some of these answers that we hope can get to people now and that we can move forward with mitigation. I would like to dispute one thing that Jennifer said. I'd like to put Grand Forks on the map as an unfloodable town. I think the work that we're doing will open up great economic opportunities for business people and people looking for a place to live that's safe and comfortable. When an area floods in town, it not only affects the flood people, but it affects the whole town. So I think we can go out there now and say to people, over the next 4 to 5 years, we're going to build you an unfloodable town, so come and live here, come and put your resources into Grand Forks and help us build a better community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. We really are thrilled to have this support in our community of Grand Forks and beyond. And so there is a lot of gratitude there on behalf of this community to the provincial and federal governments particularly, and to the City Council in Grand Forks. So thank you. The beauty of this opportunity is really that it enables us, and particularly the City of Grand Forks, to move more rapidly towards those objectives I mentioned earlier. Specifically, I'd like to remind everybody of those community objectives, which are to build back better by 1, protecting public safety, 2, fostering and improving health and wellness and supporting housing recovery, 3, delivering permanent solutions, 4, facilitating economic revitalization, 5, facilitating environmental resilience and adaptation, 6, engaging our community and stakeholders, and 7, ensuring equitable, fair, and reasonable decisions. So thank you for helping speed our path along that, towards that end. And I need to go off script for a little bit. Really it's the people that make this happen, and it's always dangerous to acknowledge specific people because you're certain to forget a lot of them. So I will add that caveat, but I'll say just there's a few people in the crowd here particularly that I will name that haven't been touched on yet. I see Chris Marsh back there somewhere, Gina Burrows as well. I'm just going to speak to our local champions here that are in the room, Cavan as well. Graham, as mentioned, is a huge reason why this has come to be as well as it has. And finally, Dave Reed there, do you wave your hand? Someone who has put an enormous amount of himself into getting to this point where we have this announcement today. So thank you to that local team and all of those local people that are not here today that have helped make this happen.